And we're on, recording and ready to go. Snoop made a prominent appearance last night on the boxing match, but I won't do an appearance here, an impression, so you speak. Not the "What's up, nephew," but I am joined with my nephew here, Adam Lewis, on the bag of six. Welcome, sir.
Hello, glad to be on here.
Right on.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a little, what generate? What are you? Technically a Z? Is that what they call it? Generation
I'm
Z.
whatever after. I think you're like the back end of millennial, and I'm like the either the back end of millennial or the front end of Z. So I don't know, little crossover. 99. So yeah,
That'll play. Yeah. So, I'm almost double your age, but that's okay. What we're going to do right now, I'd like to bring on, guests that have expertise in different fields and such. And why don't you talk a little bit about, what you've been doing? You're at Wake Forest and you've been writing. So, give a little shout. I've been reading some of your stuff, especially the article you did on the boys and a few other things, but I won't steal your thunder, man. Just give us a little background.
yeah. I'm a senior at Wake Forest University down in North Carolina. Uh, Politics major and a concentration in film as a minor. I've been working for MXDWN Mixdown.com past months, 9 months, as a staff writer, and then for the past 8 months, I've been their TV news editor. So that's kind of more about reporting your fast news about any type of scripted television news. Renewal, a trailer for The Mandalorian gets dropped, or on that within the hour, stuff like that. So kind of getting our hand in that. Mentioned the boys article. We've had a chance to interview with certain casts. I had the chance to interview Amazon Prime Videos, The Boys. So yeah, site's great. Just the TV division, but there's also a video games, movies, and music division as well. So yeah, that's kind of
Sure,
that.
sure.
Yeah.
How much control do you have over like what you get to write about? Do they say, hey, this is hot, go do that, or do you pitch things, or how does that work?
So I got an editor in chief who
Sure.
kind of like monitors me, but generally I kind of give the writers that I manage, the 10 writers I manage, with like autonomy of what they want to choose. I kind of just give them that idea of capturing that spectrum between cool and relevant, and
Right.
see, find like a niche show in the cool side, but also, if there's a story about Grey's Anatomy like pausing production because of COVID, we should probably cover that just because that's views and clicks. But
Right.
we want to stay true to ourselves and cover stuff that we also know are of high quality, but maybe not of higher known status.
Of course, man. You got to play the game, man. There's a lot of competition out there.
Exactly.
Awesome, man. You loving it?
Yeah, I like it. It's good experience as far as with COVID. I don't have that much. Didn't have that much opportunity the summer going to my senior year to get like a true professional experience in office space. So that's kind of been my forum to do that. And it's luckily in something I'm interested in. So
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
man. All experiences.
exactly.
No, that's the dream, man. You should talk to people that are doing internships at just whatever, just to get in, man. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing, dude. So yeah,
Mhm.
congratulations. So what we're going to talk about today, and I kind of pitched the idea because, as you said, everybody's kind of at home right now looking for the next thing. Was Queen's Gambit. Everybody's watching the damn Queen's Gambit right now. So we're going to try to pitch and talk about some lesser known, underrated shows. So I'm curious, between generations, if we have any overlap here, or some common threads here, but underrated shows, top six underrated shows. Not The Wire, not Sopranos, not Mad Men, Breaking Bad. You guys have all binged those, and like I said, the hot ones that came out recently. I remember the beginning of the stay-at-home order. Everybody was on Ozark, which is a fantastic show, and now Queen's Gambit, whatever, Tiger King, whatever keeps people busy. But we're gonna go with some more lesser-known ones. Hopefully, some people will have heard of these, of course, but something else to binge to just help get you through and maybe you enjoy them. And as my guest, I'm gonna let you start
Yeah.
off.
All right. So for number six pick, I think it might be a cop out just because they have won two Emmys, but I think that HBO's Barry is a recent addition to the comedy genre or the dramedy
Yeah,
genre, and I think it's a great a great series as far as it, get to see our SNL alum Bill Hader in a creative role and also a main starring role, which is fantastic to see. You get Henry Winkler back in to like the spotlight. Yeah, and so I think it takes a great idea, and I won't spoil too much, but a premise of a former Marine who suffered from PTSD and moonlights as a hitman when he comes back from the Middle East, and he finds a passion uh, with acting when he goes to meet one of his targets, and falls in love with that, and tries to balance, an internal dilemma of trying to separate his past from affecting what he wants to do in the future. Um, HBO show, so available on HBO Max, and currently just 2 seasons out, 8 episodes apiece. Uh, Third season is in the air. Got paused because of COVID, but
Right.
it is renewed, so they're gonna come back. But yeah, fantastic show. I don't know if you've seen that, but
Oh yeah, oh yeah, man. I watched. It was appointment television for me. I'm a huge fan of Hader and Alec Berg. So I was all in, and the concept sounded great. And I love, and look out for this episode in season 2 for people that are watching.
Bonnie and Lily. Bonnie
Yeah,
and
I
Lily.
love one-off episodes where you're on a formula and things are kind of rolling, and then there's the WTF episode where he has to go the karate or judo instructor,
Mhm.
and his daughter is like a feral animal scaling trees. Like, and then the whole scene in the, was it a convenience store, grocery store, or whatever, when it
Yeah,
found.
Food Lion type deal. Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, I don't want to give away too much, but that episode I watched like 4 times in a row after it came on, and it was just like the chef's kiss on top of like what was already a great progression of story and things of that nature. But I love when shows do like a good one off where it's like, what was that, man? It didn't really. But yeah, between him and Stephen Root in there and super gluing his hands to the wheel and like everything, man.
I
That
think as far as the show is concerned, I was happy. I didn't find it till the second season because it got matched up with right after the final season of Game of Thrones, and that kind of
mm,
allowed for a lot of the audience to come to it. So very happy that Bill Hader got a chance to shine on his own instead of just being laser cats.
right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, no, the first season has like a direct, like you almost think it's going to be a 1 season thing because it has like a
Oh,
definite ending.
yeah.
It's still a cliffhanger, but if I think they kind of planned it as like, I don't know, so let's kind of wrap it all up a little bit, but they still leave you hanging a little bit. And then,
Season
and then
two's
season,
left us hanging for a year and a half now. So
right, right.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's definitely a fantastic pick. I have one HBO pick on my list, and it's gonna be way less. We'll just get to it when we get there. All right, so I'm gonna start with my number 6. It was a show on Stars for a while. I think it debuted when nobody really knew what Stars was at the time. It was a brand new network, but it's a fantastic comedy about the catering business in Hollywood, and it's Party Down. Fantastic show starring Adam Scott, Ken Marino, just like a rock star cast. This was Martin Starr, kind of in between Freaks and Geeks and before Silicon Valley, but he was finding his voice. This time more sci-fi instead of tech and IT. Jane Lynch and Megan Mullally kind of switched places kind of halfway through. Again, it was very short, only 20 episodes. But Lizzie Kaplan, just like a bunch of people kind of on their up and coming, finding their way through the career. But yeah, the episodes are basically all based on the fact that Adam Scott's kind of a struggling failed actor. So he works for a catering company now, and each episode's like a different party. And he has a catchphrase, and people recognize him every now and then, and I'll have to drop it. Are we having fun yet? And they make a joke about it. But yeah, man, totally amazing, hilarious. When I first caught wind of it, I binged the whole season through like 3 or 4 times. It can go anywhere from like they had to cater a porn star party to a young Republicans convention to each one that kind of has its own theme. So it's kind of like resetting the button with the same characters each episode, and I loved it. Party Down was
I've
fantastic.
never I never heard that series before, but I do like that idea as far as it's an anthology series, but not really an anthology series. Like I think we almost fell in love with too much anthology in recent years, like Room 104 and HBO. We're just mixing things up, but it's kind of nice to have that constant to come back to that same cast of characters in a new environment, but the
Yeah.
same themes kind of get playing out. And you just mentioned that cast right there, and they're all kind of hallmarks in their own avenues of comedy. Ken Marino is a great guest star in any comedy series of all time. So I mean, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, his little guest spot as a bumbling captain's fantastic, and anytime you see him elsewhere, he's great. Lizzie Kaplan was fantastic in the interview and Mean Girls, whatever.
Oh
but
yeah. Right.
yeah, so I think that's a good little avenue to go through. And I was Martin Starr. I mean, he's probably the most unsung hero of since Freaks and Geeks. I think, in
Yeah.
my opinion, where he's always a compliment to Seth Rogen. So I mean, I'm not familiar with the series, but I just love his kind of slow delivery, kind of almost like trying to work his way through a sentence, but always kind of biting underneath it too. So I kind of always like his inclusion and stuff. So um, yeah, I was 10 when the series came out, so I don't think I was watching too much stuff about
That's
Star and catering, but yeah, kind of
that's why
similar.
we're doing this, man. That's why
Yeah,
we're doing this.
kind of sounds like it's picking up the same theme as like a Crashing, I think, with HBO.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's very similar. Yeah, except for comedy, this is just. But yeah, the same kind of rotating characters, different settings, but like the same overlying theme. But like you reboot, you don't have to follow the story. It's just like basically here are the players. We're gonna throw you down here, and all of a sudden, like cameos by Rick Fox playing Rick Fox. Like it's just like random things pop in from here and there. Oh man, I can't remember his name now. Oh well, I digress. But yeah, there's some great cameos in there, and it's just super fun. It seemed like a lot of people really wanted it to happen, and yeah, Marino plays the boss of the catering company, so he does his shtick to a T, and it's yeah, they're all kind of finding their voices here because yeah, from Freaks and Geeks, you never would assume Martin Starr had much of a career. It seemed like he was going to be a typecast, like pigeonholed right in that, like skinny, awkward. But he built off that, and kind of became more of the sarcastic. Like you said, his delivery is unique, and yeah, he's honing his craft in this one to progress to Silicon Valley. So yeah, it's fantastic. It's 20 episodes. There may be it's one of those 23 minutes per shoot right through them, and you'll be glad you did.
The just a little fun fact about Freaks and Geeks. I didn't know that the main kid, I don't forget his name, I think it's Sam, but he actually wrote Horrible Bosses and the new Spider-Man, which I was like amazed by because like I haven't seen.
No,
He was in Waiting with Ryan Reynolds, and that was like the last time I ever saw his face. And then bang, he wrote like two, probably in my opinion, one of the better comedies in the past 10 years, and also a good Marvel entry in my opinion.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and he delivered a goat in Waiting, man. I mean, come on,
yeah,
that's like the toughest of all moves.
exactly.
All right, so party down. Back to you, man. Number 5.
Yeah, sticking with HBO, and I kind of feel like this might be a theme with my whole list. Is with it's not going to be underrated for your generation, but for my generation, most people will not hear these shows. 6 Feet Under. Um, I watched this actually during the start of quarantine. I already watched Ozark, so I kind of went down the old HBO route. So that's probably putting a lot of influence on what I'm saying. But I mean, it's a show that introduces Michael C. Hall to the TV realm after years on the stage before Dexter. I think it has a great LGBTQ representation. Alan Ball, who created True Blood, also this is his first TV creation, I believe, off the top of my head, after American Beauty. And I think the premise of the show, I think it's 5 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 5 seasons. And the premise of the show, it kind of handles, a family owning and operating a funeral home with levity, but also with sincerity in the same sentence. And I think the mashup of that, and it's similar to, it really did not find that same linear or like the as far as the story for TV drama nowadays kind of wants to build, especially on HBO, wants to build from episode 1 to like the series finale, not the season finale. This one kind of goes by case, where it utilizes, a new death in the town that comes to use the funeral home to exercise a theme and how a family deals with something, or how a family wants to confront something, or a character dealing with something internally. So I think it was a very interesting uh, application, especially because it did include comedy as its main like motivator, but it also has great dramatic elements that that propel each character in like a different avenue. And it also has the best opening scene of a show and has the best series finale closing scene in history. Like it starts with a bang, ends with a bang, and like life, it starts bright and the show ends with the guarantee. So
Yeah, yeah. We can't spoil it because that would, yeah. But yeah, and early Rainn Wilson, like
yeah.
nobody's seen Dwight like this before. Peter Krause is another one that a lot of people my generation would remember from
Francis Conroy.
Sisto, Jeremy Sisto with
Yeah.
some great performances in there, man.
Rolling with the homies.
Exactly.
And the girl from Can't Hardly Wait. I can't think of her name right now. She's the youngest sister.
Right. Yeah, no, I can't either. The one that hooks up with Green, Seth Green.
Yeah. Lauren Ambrose.
Look at you on the quick Wi-Fi over there. I can see it in your glasses, man.
I know that's what the problem with Zoom right now.
It's cool, man. Looking good, man.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a fantastic show, and like similarly, like it opens with a death. So like you kind of at the beginning are waiting to see what's going to happen and how the episode's going to progress. But there is more of an overlying story there. But yeah, it kind of opens with the death, and it's just like, whoa, it's a little bit jarring, but they balance it, and it gets heady, and it gets funny, and it gets serious. But yeah, no, that's fantastic. If anybody has not checked out 6 Feet Under, definitely that's one to start like tonight.
Definitely got overshadowed by Sopranos and The Wire.
Yeah,
kind of aired at the same time, and again, HBO Max has a whole series in full. So yeah.
I think they were still cutting their teeth though at that time, so like they had the confidence to put another project on that might not have been getting the ratings, but they knew it was still good because there was no real pressure. They weren't even really getting nominated for all the big awards back then. It was just like, we know this is good. We know John from Cincinnati's bad, so we'll pull that back, but we'll keep like 6 Feet Under going. Like they kind of they saw what worked and what didn't work.
So people can talk about it 20 years in the future on paying
Exactly. All right, man. Well, since you've been going all HBO, I'm going to throw an HBO pick on there, and this one's way under the radar. But when I was coming up with my list, I wanted to include an animated show. And all the animated shows that I could think of that I really love were properly rated or overrated. I was really struggling to come up with one that maybe a lot of people haven't seen. And then it hit me. The Ricky Gervais show on HBO to me was genius because it was an audio-based show, like a podcast, basically. 3 friends sitting around between Ricky Gervais, Stephen Merchant, and Carl Pilkington. But as they're talking, they animate what they're talking about. And what really grabbed me about the show was just the mind of Carl Pilkington, who de facto becomes kind of the star of the show. Even if you think it's a bit or not, just the way his mind works and where he carries things, and like the bounce back between him, Merchant, and Gervais is as the triad. I had some of my like biggest laughs in like quite a long time, but I don't think many people really embraced it or really caught on. So I definitely want to throw that out there. And I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit and tap in Stephen Merchant's Hello Ladies on there, which was only 1 season. So if you're going there, tap that one in as well, because that was brilliance for just 1 season and 1 season only. But yeah, the Ricky Gervais show on HBO, man, that was I loved it.
Again, have not seen this one, but Gervais for our generation is The Office.
Right.
I've seen the UK version obviously too, but everyone knows him as the guy who made Steve Carell famous, as he says in his Golden Globes model. But yeah, I love Gervais. Steve Merchant's also great. I think in Jojo Rabbit too. I think has the steam. One of my favorite scenes of that entire movie. I'll come back to that later in this list actually. But what was I going to say with Ricky Gervais? Well, the concept of that show is very similar to something that's going on Netflix right now, Midnight Gospel. I don't know if you've heard of that. Which is it's the same idea where it's a Duncan Trussell podcast and they transform it into What's up, Christian?
Zoom bomb. Say hey.
Is
Your
that
cousin.
Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Adam.
What's up?
I always get Zoom bombed at least once during it.
Okay.
I will also be coming in here, maybe for my task about a few things, to give him hugs.
Okay.
That
What is Derek? What is Derek Zoom bomb for?
he doesn't zoom bomb for anything.
He's asleep.
He's reading the book. He's reading the book before he snoozes right now.
Okay.
I can tell because I was up there for a page.
I heard. Yes, you can.
I post computer time while Dad's on meetings.
Close the door, my man.
Smart kid.
Right. Yeah. He gets snacks. He gets all kinds of fun stuff while I'm with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I derailed you.
Yeah. Midnight Gospel. Similar vein. Sorry I can't speak more about the Ricky Gervais show. I do love Ricky Gervais, but Midnight Gospel is a similar vein where it's Duncan Trussell who has the Duncan Trussell Family Hour podcast. I believe that's the exact title. And he'll just pull some of his best episodes, and he's only done 8 on Netflix, but he just has, it's like basically a fake character that he voices, and he's doing a space podcast, and it just broadcasts him to some random planet with crazy animation while they're just having a conversation about anywhere from psychedelic drugs to political issues. Or I think there's one time they have a doctor on, they're talking about just like a regular physical, just like that.
Right.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's very just natural conversation, but then it gives you a visual outlet too that kind of pairs it together, or also kind of confuses or gets you kind of lost within it, but it's still a fun ride, which I enjoyed.
Yeah. So yeah, check it out, man. I'm sure it's on HBO Max, dude.
Probably.
They have everything. But yeah, no, it's fun, and it just keeps going down rabbit holes, and then it's just kind of it's like when you click on a subject, like basically they get Carl going on something, and then he starts asking, following, and then yeah, it's good, dude. Check that out, man, for sure. All right, man, back to you, number 4.
Yeah, so again, you're definitely gonna know this one, and a lot of people will know this one, but it recently got a little resurgence because it got added on like 3 different streaming services. So my generation was not familiar with this show at all, apparently, until quarantine, but it got added on Netflix, Hulu, and Prime Video. Yeah, I remember watching episodes about paintball when I was like 10 with my mom, and that's Community.
Yeah.
Community is a great series. It's also available on 3 different platforms, like I said, if you want to binge watch it. I have it kind of in the middle of this list because it just serves with my generation, with people watching it. But I mean, I've seen the show before, so people are kind of fell in love with it. It's got Dan Harmon, at least for most of the series, at the helm, the creator of Rick and Morty, and it kind of has the same attraction as like people kind of rediscovered it once it got redistributed on a streaming platform, like Peaky Blinders right now, how it started in BBC One, and now they air on Netflix, so people kind of get familiar with the show that might have got lost in the shuffle. Yeah, so I think Community is a great show. It's a precursor for the phenomenon that Harmon made for Rick and Morty. It includes every little gag or trope from every single film or TV genre. It includes many ABC Cougar Town jokes, and has a great cast of characters. Joel McHale is phenomenal, who kind of plays that narcissistic role to a T. And each person, we can also make the argument that each member of their little table at their Spanish study session table, a Community, has their own narcissistic ways. Introduced us to Donald Glover in an acting form.
Basically the formation of Donald Glover, man. Yeah, like that was his cutting his teeth.
Exactly. Got him a stand-up special. So who's Dave Franco's wife too? I just totally slipped her name.
Allison Brie.
There you go. And what's the blonde girl's name too? I haven't watched it.
Chevy Chase, man. How you gonna leave
Chevy Chase kind of lost himself. But yeah, I think that it starts. The first 4 seasons are fantastic. Kind of had a little shuffle with Harmon as a creative control, so kind of lost a little bit of its edge in the last 2 seasons, especially because it got canceled and picked up by Yahoo or something like that.
Eventually. Yahoo, yeah, exactly.
So something to definitely look out for, and it's basically just biting commentary on every single piece of media that you've been taked for years, and it'll take a parody of a random show from a random movie like Pulp Fiction, but also combine it with an episode of just a dinner conversation. So
Yeah, my Dinner with Andre episode with Abed is amazing, man. That's a head one, but I love it. But yeah, you mentioned the one of the paintball episodes. They have more than one. One kind of turns into like a Die Hard parody, where of course Mikhail is in his rib tank top, and takes over that persona. But some of my favorite ones, you mentioned Harmon, the Meow Meow Beans, and the whole social media craze where it's a new app that's out and it starts breaking down the classes of how many Meow Meow Beans you have, and this will never catch on, and everybody's running through now. It kind of turns into a Black Mirror episode, but like crazy.
Also, a little surprise, little fun fact too: the Russo brothers, the director of Avengers: Endgame and Infinity War, cut their teeth by directing episodes of Community, which I thought was kind of a very stark their resume. I remember watching it with one of my friends this summer because he's like, I've never seen it. I showed him one. I was like, Anthony Joe Russo. I was like, I know that name. Like that doesn't. That's like made the connection once like we looked it up and everything. I was like, that's a weird resume to hold. But yeah.
No, I remember when it was on network TV, like weekly, like I was DVRing Community. And then it was one of the first shows, that one and Chuck. I don't know if you remember or ever saw Chuck.
Yeah.
They were the two that like had enough fans, like
to get renewed, but never
never the ratings, but like their presence aside from the ratings was undeniable. So they kept pushing, and like all of a sudden Chuck would be eating a Subway sandwich with like the wrapper facing out because they needed more funding, and like they'd make like a kind of meta joke about it in the episode, but they kept chugging along, man. And then finally Community went to Yahoo, but it was definitely on longer than anybody thought it was because it was just brilliant. And
6 seasons in a movie. How to combat they're actually making a movie in the future. I think there's some reports about that, but that could just be just a rumor mill. But I mean, it had to combat both those shows, Chuck and Community, had to combat the start of Big Bang Theory and Modern Family, and kind of that last hurrah for Chuck Lorre, and and that little mockumentary Office style, keep on chugging away on ABC. So yeah, it was such a good. I think it was just such a good stark contrast to what we kind of saw as sitcoms, and I think we got the attention it deserved. So definitely underrated in my opinion.
Oh man, I can go on and on about episodes of there. The magic trampoline, like so many. Oh yeah, blankets versus pillows. Like definitely get into Community. It's everywhere. And again, another quick watch at about 20 minutes and change because it was a half an hour network show. So, all right, I feel we've been going a little light here, so I'm going to go a little bit darker. And you mentioned you probably talked to the star of this show, who arguably. What's that?
I already know where you're going. I know you watch a show, and I think it's another Star show, right? Which is Epics. I forget.
I don't remember which network it debuted. No, Cinemax. Yeah. It was on Cinemax, and Anthony Starr was the star. Ironically, he played Lucas Hood, and it's Banshee. Banshee is a fantastic show. I ended up buying all the seasons because they only streamed like the first one on Amazon, and it pissed me off, but I could not stop. The concept sounds very formulaic. Guy gets out of prison, goes to a small town. I'm not going to spoil anything because this happens in like the first few minutes. He happens to go to a bar where the sheriff is there as well on his first day in town, and gets into an altercation with some guys, gets killed. Star saves the day and assumes his identity with Sugar Bates, played by Frankie Faison, all-time great actor. And they kind of keep it under their belt, and he assumes the role as sheriff in here. And you kind of learn throughout the process that, he's an ex-super thief. You learn why he's in the town because of the woman he loves. But overall, it kind of has to speak from Roadhouse. It's kind of that small town vibe, big bad, who's ex-Amish character who runs the town. I'm not really selling it well there because when people think Amish, the guy can't be a badass. But Kai Proctor is great, and he has his one offside right hand man who's a total badass, and some of the greatest fight scenes that I've seen on television. On I mean, aside from something like Game of Thrones where you have full battle scenes and swords and everything, I'm talking straight dukes up, let's go. Some of the greatest fight scenes ever. Don't invite the kids. It does get a little sexual, but it is Cinemax after all. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, come on. But yeah, it introduces new villains in here for him to come and encounter as his role as a police officer, while still his overall thing of getting his life back from spending time in prison. But they don't ham fist it like Sons of Anarchy, where it's all of a sudden like, here's the new guy we're going to introduce now. They interweave like the new big bads in there to make it still interesting. It all makes sense, but from start to finish, Hoon Lee plays a great job as Job. Fantastic secondary lead on the good guy side. But yeah, Banshee, if you have not seen Banshee, go rent Banshee, go buy Banshee, get yourself in the Banshee game. I love that show.
I remember when I had to interview Anthony Starr. That's like the one thing I heard you say, Banshee, Banshee. Never got to see it, but I do like that same idea, like the back end you said, where it kind of gets that show is able to interweave a new villain into it. I think that's a pitfall for a lot of shows, and a lot of shows that we actually particularly love, like Dexter. I think was the biggest offender of all time, where it's like, oh, there's how many serial killers are in Miami, and how many do you interact with on a daily?
Right.
No, it was kind of like that repetitiveness, and I think the best shows we've already talked about with Sopranos or Breaking Bad. You see Gus Fring like way before you look behind the veil. You see Johnny Sack in a lesser role before he's kind of not maybe a villain, but you see him as an opposition to Tony. So the best kind of series gets your mind always thinking and introducing potential guys that you kind of have to keep your head in the swivels. Like that guy could do something in the future, and take a show in a new direction. And I think that's the best way to do it. And I love Anthony Starr. I was so shocked. I didn't know. I thought he was American this entire time from The Boys, but thick accent in real life. But yeah,
they can always do it better than we can. We can't do foreign accents, but the Brits, the Aussies, they can nail us like nobody else. I have another character on my list that's coming up later that changes things up. Kind of slightly has been mentioned, but yeah, it's they can nail it, man. I'm jealous. Yeah. Oh, Tom Pelfrey too. I forgot to totally mention him, and from who just got a big, huge push from, as we already talked about, how many times Ozark, but he played the brother-in-law that I won't spoil anything because there's some fan theories out there, but he plays the brother-in-law in there, and the first time I ever saw him was in Banshee. He plays an ex white supremacist that wants to change his ways, and he joins the force and becomes kind of a key character in there as well. So great performance. Get on that.
All right. 3 for 3 for not watching. At least I heard the past two.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So this next pick for me, I kind of want to do an entire network, really, and I kind of just narrowed it down to just trying to fit my generation. But I'm in love with FX for creating original content. I in love with it, from Rescue Me to You're the Worst, which I think is a fantastic show, and I really want to put that in this list. But
I almost did too.
Yeah, and Atlanta, but that kind of saw some mainstream success. But their newest comedy, which I think is honestly their strongest comedy, is What We Do in the Shadows. Based on the 2014 film by Taika Waititi, who did Jojo Rabbit, as we talked with Stephen Merchant before. It's a show, same premise as the movie, the same movie, same name. Bunch of vampires living in a flat together, and just a mockumentary style, kind of influenced by Modern Family and The Office, but also kind of, it's the movie set in New Zealand, and now these vampires are living in Staten Island, and they were sent over here to take over the new world of the new Americas, and they have not. They've barely left their block in Staten Island. And it's a very good departure from what we normally see from horror comedy. And you see this in the film too. And I think it kind of gives you that humanizing feature for these monsters, and it's a these monsters normally use as mechanisms to drive a horror story or a thought, and now these monsters are kind of used as our sympathizers, the ones we want to root for. A kind of a evolution of an anti-hero, but in a comedy sense. And they kind of they broaden how you view a vampire with the inclusion of a Colin Robinson, who's an energy vampire. He can be out during the daylight and he can just suck your energy at the office. And I think that was a very fine tone inclusion. Yeah, it's got Matt Berry in it, who IT Crowd, and he's got another show like The Toast or something like that. It's very funny. I've seen a couple episodes of that. And a couple of newcomers, all British actors too, and Harvey Guillen, and like the Colin Robinson kid. He's in a ton of just small parts, and he was in The Office at one point. I forget his name off the top of my head, but very, very, very underrated, I think, and I think it will build up its own credibility on FX. It has a platform to do so. 2 seasons out right now. I think it's on Hulu for streaming. Half-hour comedy again, and renewed for a 3rd season. Who knows when that will come, but a very promising show, I think, and I think it needs the attention for further seasons.
All right, now we even up because I have not seen this one. For a second, I thought you were going Dave, and I was going to be really disappointed. So I'm glad you swerved. But I have seen the movie, so I kind of get the premise, but I have not seen the show yet. So I'm glad to hear that it lives up, because that typically does not go well.
Exactly, especially in such a short amount of time, only like 5 years between the movie and the show. So, but he was the Wakiki. I can't say his name properly, but he's still involved with the show with Jermaine Clement, who also is in the movie as well. So they both kind of stayed on for the show, which definitely helped its adaptation for the small screen. But very, very promising comedy on FX. So I'm excited for what it has to come.
And how do you mention FX or FXXXX? How many X's without mentioning one of the greatest shows of all time?
It's Always Sunny. I had AP Bio, so I was going by networks for all these, and then I got distracted by HBO.
But, well, no, I'm not saying to put that on the underrated list.
Oh yeah, like, I know. But I was like
Atlanta, like a lot of the successes of FX, and you don't mention their greatest success.
Well, because it's own lane.
That's true.
That would be on YouTube if they didn't get picked up by a network. But
That's true.
I was so tempted. I had AP Bio down for a second for one of these and took it off though. And I was like, Glenn Howerton, I gotta put him on here, but couldn't snake his way.
Well, originally we were talking about anti-heroes as a possible subject, and we've tabled that they definitely could come back. But like, since we'll just take this one off the table, which character from It's Always Sunny would you pick as the anti-hero? Because technically all of them together, kind of the Voltron of anti-heroes. But if you had to pick one character as the anti-hero from It's Always Sunny, who would you choose?
Well, I can choose someone. I also give a better explanation too about how that show's structured. But you got to go Dennis, because he's just an absolute sociopath.
Yes, he is.
But
he has a whole system.
you can always find humanizing qualities sometimes. Very rarely in all the other ones, with the exception of maybe Frank. But Dennis is always the consistently like, that dude's a real bastard, and
because of the implication.
Well, the implications of that. But he's also a golden god, so you have to pay your tribute.
Exactly.
But I think that show is very funny. I always make this comparison to people, especially girls who idolize Friends and stuff like that. Like, you have Seinfeld, Friends, and It's Always Sunny, 3 shows about all horrible people, and only Seinfeld and It's Always Sunny know that they're horrible people.
True.
And that's the fun.
Speaking of sociopaths, we could get into a whole Ross conversation for quite some time. That guy's horrible, but it was great once they discovered it and kind of let him cook, man. And in my opinion, he's my only character in there I still enjoy watching, because when they went from like bumbling love struck goof into this guy's just full on crazy. That's when the only time, those are the episodes that I like to watch. Well, and then Rachel kind of got extra fine, so it was like, okay, I'm all right. So that was 3, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for keeping track, because I never do. All right. A little Britpop comedy showed up in my streaming feed not that long. Well, actually, probably longer than I remember. It is kind of a mm, coming of age. I love awkward humor. I'm going to go ahead and switch terms there. You know, we've talked about some of the big hitters in your office. Like I always think of Michael's Kids episode where it's like every second of that episode, once you realize that he promised all these kids college tuition and he forgot about it, and Stanley's cracking up, but he's still going to the school with laptop batteries. Like, I like that stuff. I like the way it makes me feel. It's probably the way like horror movie fans feel about, like, you know, the tension. Will McKenzie from the In-Betweeners is one of those people to me. I think he
You
is.
just took my next pick.
Oh, no way.
Go for it though. Yeah.
Let's see, that's
keep
why.
going, keep going.
No, I mean, I think his performance is just otherworldly, man. Like, there's so many times where it's just like, just stop, man. Just stop. But he doesn't. And it's perfect and it's so well executed. His delivery, oh man.
Punchable face sometimes.
Yeah, just everything about it is just always to that next level. And of course, Simon Cooper, played by Joe Thomas, he does a you know, charming role, but also they're all misfits. I mean, they're in betweeners. It's kind of in the title. You know, Jay is the sex crazed, you know, wild man that doesn't really have experiences but wants to be a know-it-all. Neil's like the big lumbering goofball. I mean, it checks a lot of boxes, but Simon Bird is Will McKenzie. I mean, that performance just absolutely got me from like the first episode, and it was totally just like an impulse pick, and I went through it all in the movies and everything else, and I just couldn't stop. So yeah, I don't know where and if it is still streaming out there, because it has been a while. What's that?
Netflix.
Still?
Yep.
All right, fantastic. Yeah. Get into that, dude. Get into it, because it takes a lot of left-hand turns on you, and I love it, man. So hop on then, man.
That show is phenomenal, and that might just because I watched it as a high school boy, because it just kind of matched where I was at that time.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no, me and my friends discovered that kind of in a similar fashion, because the older brother was watching the movie and we're like, that seems hilarious. We're 16 years old, like that's funny. So we found out that the show's on Netflix. 3 seasons, 6 episodes, I think, because it's a British show, because they do it
right.
It's manageable to watch. Yeah, it's just that slapstick kind of dirty. Don't want to say locker room talk, but kind of that same idea. Of like, you know, 4 just kind of like off-putting guys that are just kind of all thrown together. And Will McKenzie is the fringe guy, peak fringe guy in that scenario. And it's kind of the amusement park trip in that little yellow buggy is a hallmark episode for me. I love every single thing about it, and the hopeless romantic of some of them.
Yeah.
And, yeah. It kind of captures every single facet of your adolescence.
Simon, yeah, man, you're rooting for Simon. You really are, man. And
you just can't seem to put the pieces of the puzzle.
And then Jay will just call him out for having a boner in the middle of the whole room, and it's like, dude, man, and it's like, why? But you're right, it is locker room talk, but it kind of mirrors high school life. You know, I didn't watch it in high school, but I did go there one time, and yeah, it felt really real. And I am always a sucker for British slang and stuff. So it's like, you know, going on and on about how your mother's fit is fit. I'm like, oh man, I love hearing lexicon from the whole Cockney or just British landscape. So that just adds an extra level to it for me, because it is entertaining me, but then I'm also getting all these extra slang piped in. So it's got some very quotable scenes.
2 quick shows to pile on that too. Jay from In-Betweeners is in a Netflix show called White Gold with Chuck Bass from Gossip Girl.
Fantastic. I almost included it, but I figured it's way too underrated.
Awesome there. Same vein, British humor and stuff like that. And also, I think Bad Education is one as well, which is also it's interesting. But
I haven't seen that one.
That's a Netflix show, I believe, off the top of my head. But it's same kind of vein where it's like that high school, middle school teacher vibe where that teacher just doesn't care. So it's kind
of
hybrid. Right. But yeah,
No, White Gold was very surprising. I did not expect to like it as much as I did, but
I chose it because of In-Betweeners.
Yeah. Well, and Chuck was my guy from Gossip Girl. I'm not gonna lie, that was my dude, and so I ride for Chuck Bass. He's cool, except for when he plays basketball. Don't ever wear that outfit again, man. So, all right, man. Do you have a backup pick, or are we just gonna combo that one?
I mean, it's an extension of a pick,
All
which
right.
I think, and I had kind of a similar theme throughout my entire list, where I say older generation, like 15 years past me, probably not another show, but I think this is a show that definitely altered how we view adult animation or just animation in general. I mean, you kind of have the Hallmark series like Simpsons that kind of has that. It's adult animation, but it kind of has that more holistic approach to it. But then you have South Park and Family Guy that goes more raunchy side, and then you have Netflix inclusion of BoJack Horseman, which I think is a deep dive in uh, depression. To be honest, that's the main theme of the whole show. The premise,
Arnett, man.
yeah, general premise is the titular BoJack Horseman is a former '90s sitcom star who's just an alcoholic living out his days in the pool, just trying to find any way to go back to that limelight. You got Aaron Paul as a voice cast, as a supporting role, as the clueless Todd. And you have Will Arnett, I kind of skipped over him, as the titular BoJack.
All right.
He has the greatest animated voice from Lego Batman or two.
Right.
Arrested Development in person, but yeah. So I think it definitely alters how we view animation, where it demonstrates itself as like a comedy on the general surface, especially in the first season or two, but kind of has that dark overtones coming up underneath, and then the full latter half of the season kind of really brings you into the deep dive of BoJack Horseman, and it has that combines that element of pop culture references that we saw and loved from The Simpsons and also Community into his storylines, but also looks for that internal reflection on like the characters that we watch. So fascinating show.
What's the hook, man? So he's an out of work actor, right? From I have only seen a couple episodes. I'm gonna
Yeah. So he's again '90s sitcom star.
Okay.
Has probably done very few things in between, and it picks up. I think it premiered early 2010s when I was in high school. Premiered.
Is he the only horse? Is he the only animal?
No. So the whole world is like hybrid. It's like some humans, and then they'll have like Quentin Tarantula as a director. They'll have Russell Crowe, who's not a crow, but he's like some other thing, and he gets really mad about that. But they kind of have that as like it's always like some side jokes and stuff, but never really kind of fully plays into that. I mean, he's a horse, but it doesn't really play into the fact. He kind of uses it as an idea to like work through deeper and darker problems of the human essence. It also has, like we talked about with Barry, it has one of those one-off episodes. I do not know the title of it, but it's a little underwater silence episode. And there's also an episode entitled The Churro, which I think is the best scripted comedy episode of all time.
All right.
You really don't need to watch the whole series. It kind of gives you flashbacks, but yeah, it's a fantastic entry into the comedy genre.
I might need to hit you up to cherry pick me, because I mean, how many seasons are they up to now? 5, 4, something like that?
BoJack Horseman concluded. They just finished this past right around the Super Bowl. So 6 seasons, I think.
Shit. Well, that gives you a lot to watch if you haven't seen it yet. So I recently doing the cheat code for the Clone Wars animated show because I heard the last season was so phenomenal that I did not want to watch the previous 5. So someone did like a cheat code where it's like you only have to watch these 20 episodes to get what's happening in the last season. So I might need you to cherry pick me some of the funniest ones, and then I will go back and then fill in the blanks because I'm a dad and I don't have much time on my hands. But yeah, man, that I've heard nothing but fantastic things, and it's one of those things that I have in my queue, and I just never got to it, man. But yeah, fantastic. All right, I got two. I got no more comedies. One for me or one for them. I'm going with Supernatural. Supernatural, I think 15 or 16 seasons now. So yeah, if you're not leaving, if you're not leaving anywhere, because no, these aren't the European seasons. These are like 20 plus episode seasons. And so yeah, if you got time on your hands, you got a lot of Supernatural to watch, and it is on Netflix. And I started it kind of late in the game, but caught up to real time. And the production quality of the first couple seasons is pretty harsh, man, to be honest. They're kind of going for that gritty. They're tackling all the original I mean, obviously it's called Supernatural, but like, Bloody Mary, like, the hook in the door, like all those old stories you heard as a kid, campfire stories. But it really ends up like morphing into just a fantastic story of two brothers, Jared Padalecki, Jensen Ackles. They play Sam and Dean Winchester. Um, and yeah, they're just basically battling all the evil things in the world, from demons and going through 15 seasons. Like that first 5 season arc is amazing, where they actually have like a one villain who got their mom and they're going to chase them down, and here's how we get there. Along the road, we're going to fight our battles. You got to fill 20 episodes, so you got to you got a lot of filler episodes, but they're great because they do like a lot of one-off episodes and comedy episodes, and tricksters come down and angels, and like they do get into God and the devil and the whole story, man. And so it sounds a lot deeper than it is, but it really isn't. But it does have some great suspense, a great performance. Castiel plays a fallen angel. Misha Collins, Booger from Revenge of the Nerds, Curtis Armstrong. I remember him from Better Off Dead, but he's great in there. And Jeffrey Dean Morgan plays the father, as everybody knows from Walking Dead. But this was kind of one of his first coming out parties. But Supernatural, I didn't want to like it, and it hooked me. And so, as we're talking about, it doesn't show up on any list ever because it isn't high art by any means, but it is a feel good story, man. And it does have a lot in it, and they pack a lot in it, but it's funny. And like I said, you might watch a couple and start to drift off, but then it hits you with like a really funny one where they just throw all the rules out the window, but they can do that because they can bring supernatural forces in. There's no reason to write the script, or they'll bring themselves in the character whereas they find out that there is someone actually writing the stories that they're actually in, so they get like really behind in it. I'm giving too much out there, but yeah, man, if you really want to dive into something, and even if you don't want to stick with it and kind of pop in and out, Supernatural is a fantastic show that's way underrated.
CW can put out some hits every now and then.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, there are some hardcore fans of that show. I've seen probably a total of a season, but probably not linear. So I know the show, but not well enough. CW can put out some hits though. I mean, I think that show went on for way too long, but it was a kind of
but
network. But I think it kind of opened the door for them to go into this little superhero universe they've been doing with Arrow and everything else, and kind of open the doors for that network to expand upon its original content. So I can thank him for that. Also, Eric Kripke, who created developed The Boys for TV, he started with Supernatural, so it's good to see him kind of work his feelings out and kind of touching Supernatural before going full superhero. So I've always enjoyed Little Winchesters, but
it is too much. 15 seasons too much for any show.
But it definitely, you can always find in a show of that. Same thing with The Simpsons. I'm a big Simpsons fan. I probably do not like an episode from season 10 on, but that's the reality of it. You can find each television fan is going to be able to find something they like within 15 seasons of work, especially with 20 episodes per season.
TNT, I think, is replay. They replay them like in the morning and stuff. So like every now and then, I'll pop on an episode of Supernatural, and it'll kind of take me back because they travel across America. So like they'll bring in characters and then they'll exit those characters' lives, and then like 2 seasons later, the call back because like, oh man, we're near Ohio, and oh, let's call Patty. She's the one with 2 shotguns, and it's just like, oh man, like, oh man, I totally forgot about her. Or, all of a sudden somebody now is a demon that didn't,
What's that car they drive again too? Because it's slick. It's really slick.
Yeah.
We did a story. I forget, one of my team members did a story about that. They're auctioning that car off, and I was like, it's nice.
No, the original one?
Yeah, I think so.
No way. At the end, I believe season 5, they do a whole like every season finale, they do like a here's where we are up until now. So if someone actually wanted to just watch all the season finales, it would kind of be an interesting experiment because they play Carry On My Wayward Son and they play back everything that's happened during the season, and then they just hit you with the beginning and it goes, man. So like they literally catch you up. But
Sorry, continue. I apologize. Jensen Ackles was going to actually just keep the Impala for himself.
nice. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. He should, man. Like that should be his. He literally calls it baby. But yeah, they did a history of the car. Like they showed it coming off the factory line and how it got wrecked, and from time and time again, and Dean kept working on it. And like when they were kids riding with their dad, who was also a hunter, you know, they lost their Legos and like the heating vents, but he keeps those in there even when he fixes them because it's all part of the character. Like the car is another part of the show as well too. So I'm glad Jensen's keeping it. And here's going to be an old timer thing for anybody and really revealing thing. I remember Jensen Ackles when he played Eric Brady on Days of Our Lives. Yeah, that's right. I watched Days of Our Lives in college, my friend. It was a game move, dude. I ended up.
I'm sure it was.
I think we had like 15 girls in the club that all love that show. I'm like, yeah, man, I'll sit here and watch this with you. Sure.
People do the Bachelorette watch parties now. Yeah.
There you go.
I haven't come to that yet, but
this was the mid-afternoon version of that because it came on at like noon or 1. So it was like a stopover in between classes and carrying upon your day, man. But it was like, oh, sure, I'll pop by the all-girls dorm and watch Days of Our Lives for an hour. Sure, man. I got my hair braided back then watching Days of Our Lives. That's a full confession right there. Not many people will do that. Yes, I had, because it was the 90s, man. I had the full, like, you know.
Did you dye your hair back then too, or no? Just now?
What's that?
You dye your hair back then too, or just now?
No. There was no dye back then. Yeah, just a lot. It was grunge, man. All the grunge. So I had like the Eddie Vedder, like the long, like just silly stuff. But yeah, no. This is something, man. This
Thanksgiving Zoom call was confusing for me.
They all are, man. This was you know, when your wife wants to have a salon day during birthday week in a pandemic, this is what happens, man.
Yeah, give and take, two-way street.
Exactly.
Jensen Ackles also going to be in Kripke's new show with the boys, by the way, next season.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Man, I love that dude, man. I'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah, he brought him in because I liked working with him. I'm going to bring him in again too. Believe he's going to be one of the bad guys, but that's going to be fun regardless.
It's a fine line of who's good or bad, so you know.
Yeah. So
number one
pick. I think this, you know, we talked about anti-heroes. That's kind of something maybe in the future, but HBO and The Sopranos made the anti-hero with Tony Soprano popular. This show introduced anti-heroes, but for the entire cast. Not a single member of this cast is going to be kind of a good person. They're always going to have something behind them. And
don't steal my number one, man.
Because back to HBO.
Okay.
I'm going with Oz.
Okay.
First hour-long drama for HBO, and arguably its best.
J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, exactly. It challenged the TV viewer for finding protagonists to actually root for, you know, to look inside prison. Again, I didn't describe the show, but it's a experimental prison nicknamed Emerald City, so it goes by Oz by the prison mates, and it's kind of a mixed match bag of characters kind of working their way through prison. Don't want to give too much away, but you know, look inside prison has the viewers sympathizing with murderers, rapists, and such.
Adebisi with his tiny hat.
Yeah, exactly. Adebisi. And you know, for pop culture fans, it has Dean Winters, Mayhem on the commercial, whatever insurance commercial. J.K. Simmons.
Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, exactly. Farmers Insurance. J.K. Simmons or Whiplash. A lot of insurance guys here. Christian Maloney for you too. The Generation Kill main character, the little writer, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, and the chief in Chicago Fire right now on NBC. He's plays the uh, wise Muslim leader,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Kareem Saeed.
Saeed, yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
a
that
nice
was a
little,
good pull on the insurance. I didn't think about JK and Ryan O'Reilly both.
I just kind of thought about that.
Making-
Yeah, and he also got Dean Winter's brother in there too, I think, a couple seasons as well. Not at the beginning, but he comes in later. But yeah, it kind of sets a tone for where HBO is going to go for the rest of its run. It also has a young Edie Falco before The Sopranos.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so it kind of sets a tone for how HBO is going to set their content for the next 20 years. You know, it's the first hour-long drama they have, kind of the biggest television drama, or at least as far as in depth, since Twin Peaks, I would say. I think there's kind of a gap of 5 years where, you know, there's nothing really on television right now. I'm almost going to get Zoom bombed, I think. But um, yeah, so
Is my sister / your mom coming in the room?
yeah, I have no idea. I'm in the basement.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute myself real quick. What's up?
I will fill right now.
Yeah, so she just left. It was your sister. But yeah, Oz kind of sets the tone for how HBO drama is going to be set up for the next couple of years, and each episode looks in a different part of prison and how it affects different people's lives, and humanizes prisoners almost in a way, which I think is kind of important to think as well.
It was unique to have a narrator involved too. Like that was a unique thing where it was like somebody's kind of in the show, but also like breaking the fourth wall a little bit. It was something unique because he'd come in and spinning around and he's kind of letting you know, giving you some exposition. But he was also in the show. So it was like, okay, you know, that was one of the first times I ever really experienced that. And I thought that was super cool.
Well, precursor for House of Cards.
Oh
no, we can't talk about that show anymore.
Can't talk about that show. Can't. No. I mean, is there an anti-hero show and life like all in the same time? But I guess there's no real hero involved with Kevin Spacey, so he's just anti.
We'll go with Malcolm in the Middle.
Exactly. All right, man. My number one, which I thought you were going to get at there, and briefly we talked about Walton Goggins before we started recording, because I might be able to do a full list of Walton Goggins features. I almost picked Justified, but we would not have Justified without Shane Vendrell and The Shield. Vic Mackey, in my opinion, was like the ultimate underrated anti-hero. Just amazing performances. Walton Goggins is the true villain of that show. For anybody who's watched it, I will not give it away exactly what happens, but it's one of those ones. And again, kind of dated, but you know, most of mine are. But when because the first episode, you kind of get in and it's they're going out on like a big sting. They're all cops. The Shield. Going out, they're all cops, and they're getting all jacked up by listening to Bawa to Ba by Kid Rock, and it's kind of like, all right, man, that didn't age well, but it carries off from there, and it's one of those first ones where it's the bad cop, good cop kind of scenario. Like they do horrible things, they are doing heists, they are bad people, they do murder people, but kind of in that vein, they're mostly killing bad people, mostly. And then all the do-gooder good guy cops are like, you know, we're gonna stop them, we're gonna bring him down. But then all of a sudden, when there's a child molester in custody and you can't get him to confess where the kids are, who are you gonna call? Vic Mackey. And you turn the cameras off and give him a phone book and send him in the room, and all of a sudden he gives you an address. So there's a lot of contradiction elements here, but it's about 90 episodes, I think, around there. An amazing final season that completely answers all questions. A big roller coaster ride. A wonderful villain in David Aceveda, played by Benito Martinez. And Ken, of course, Shane Vendrell. I mean, his performance, Walton Goggins. I mean, I love the guy anyway, from anywhere from
Vice Principals.
Yeah, I mean, even like his cameos on as I've already dogged, even though I watched the whole series, Sons of Anarchy, like his cameos in there were just amazing. I did not see it coming. If anybody doesn't know, check that out. Um, uh, Jay Carnes plays Holland Wagenbach, who they call Dutchman. So there's like a whole psychological side to it, aside from like the police officers, because he's like supposed to be like the smart guy, the one that's going to get in your head and he's going to figure things out. But he's always one step behind like the alpha males, and so it's kind of like the smart versus the brawn, and he kind of has a couple darkness sides about him as well, and it really delves into a lot of the other characters. It does a great. CCH Pounder is Claudette Wims, who ends up being head of the department. She does a masterful performance. It's just really, everybody always talks about the goats. They always talk about the anti-heroes of, it's got to be Walter White, it's got to be Tony Soprano, it's got to be why am I blanking on Don Draper? But nobody mentions Vic Mackey very much, man. And if you see like the list of the greatest shows of all time, it's always like number 78. And I think that's bullshit. So I actually have all the seasons on DVD. So that's how long ago it's been. And I will still run them back, man. There's some gripping moments, man. I'll just say like the girl with the tattoo. Once you see it, you'll know. I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but yeah. Amazing.
I've seen a decent amount of that show. Pretty much just the first season, I think. But first episode is again in that same vein, like we talked about Six Feet Under. One of the best first episodes. It kind of mirrors Mad Men too, with Don Draper kind of going about his day essentially, and then you kind of get a big reveal at the end. The first episode Shield follows the same format and takes you for a ride for sure, and kind of sets you up for the rest of the series. Again, FX never does
right.
So I was always of the Rescue Me fan club, just because I think East Coast New York influence on me. But yeah, I've always kind of had a soft spot for the Shield. It's one of those shows that like I've never fully gotten around to finishing, but I've always like gotten it, watched the first episode, loved it, watched enough, something's happened, forget about it. But I always come back. That's the key. And then one of these days I might come back and finish it out. I did just kind of look up again to see where you can stream it. Hulu, I think, and then I think Amazon Prime you can buy it, but hopefully you can get it for free on Hulu. Just stream.
I can mail you my DVDs, man. I can put them right in there. I can just put them in a nice box, send them to, I got them all. They're not even Blu-rays, man. That's how old.
I got the Wake Forest library that hopefully might have it too for free. That's another key thing.
This one's also kind of like a personal pick, man, because I fell in love with the show. I screamed from the mountaintops when it was out, like, why isn't anybody watching this? And then I'd get people hooked, and they were into it. And then, like, as time went on, all these lists came out, and everybody kept talking about this performance and that performance, and I'm like, why isn't anybody talking about the Shield, man? Like, it baffles me, man, and it still does to this day. And like I said, I mean, that last season has an amazing conclusion, and again, Goggins brings it home there. Like, you literally hate that man, dude, with a passion after that final season, and there's no other way to go about it, man. I mean, he really caught me slipping, and wow. I mean, he did some shitty things throughout the years, but that last season, man, it was just like, this guy is the devil, man, and it's amazing. So yeah.
Do you have anything that you like? Maybe Donna mentioned some honorable mentions, or no? I have like one or two.
I kind of slipped them in there, because I also wanted to do Justified, but I didn't want to, all Goggins out. Again, amazing show. Timothy Oliphant, I can listen to him read the phone book, man. Good looking man, just delivers shit perfectly. Like, I love that guy, man. I've loved him forever. I don't know why he wasn't a bigger star than he was, but Undeclared I wanted to put in there, but I thought that was a little
Freaks and Geeks are too mainstream now.
I thought so, yeah. I mean, Freaks and Geeks, it's all the pub, but like, that was the one. That one kind of, to me, was like In Betweeners to You, because I think I was around in college when Undeclared came out, so it was kind of reaching me there. And Charlie Hunnam, but more so Siegel's performance as the crazy boyfriend and printing his picture on the pillow, dude, that shit slayed me. I did also have Bored to Death from HBO on there, but that's you kind of have to be a Schwartzman fan or a non-Schwartzman fan. Doesn't really appeal to everybody, but that one was one of my. I preach to the temple of Ted Danson, and pretty much everything that he's in is fantastic. I love that show. It was kind of like a pulp novel, but it had Galifianakis, Schwartzman, Danson. Oh man, a lot of pot thrown in the air. It was just a beauty. It hit me at the right spot, so that was on there. Shout out to my wife. When we first moved into our house, we watched this show on TNT. It was called Last Resort, and it was basically a TV interpretation, loosely like Crimson Tide, where they're in this nuclear sub and they get these orders, but they find out the orders might not be right, and they're supposed to fire on some people, but they don't think they should because. And then they're like, Washington D.C. is blown up, man. We got to fight back. And so they post up on this island, and they have like, a stronghold, and it's like, it was super cool. It was a TNT drama though back then. It lasted one season, but for that like time when we were first in our house with like 6 pieces of furniture, we watched like every episode of that, like Religion. So I would go back and watch that again, but I don't know if it applied to a lot of people. So what about you? Do you have any honorable mentions?
I had a couple, and I'm glad you mentioned Timothy Olyphant. I'm kind of sticking in that comedy lane, but there's a Netflix one, Santa Clara Diet, with.
Oh yeah,
yeah, very solid comedy. It was kind of maybe a little bit not well thought out in some places, but it was like overall easy watch, and you kind of just grind through it. A half-hour comedy, so it was easy.
I didn't think I'd like it because I don't like Drew Barrymore very much, but she was pretty good in it. And I think sadly it just got canceled not that long ago, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it maybe had a second season, and maybe it had 2, maybe a third.
No, I think it had 2 or 3. I watched up until, well, I can't say what happened, but
yeah, I watched the first 2 seasons.
yeah. So I mean that was, and that really kind of what's the kid in there? Put him on the map, man.
I'll do a fast Google.
Skylar, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Skylar Gisondo.
Yeah, from the Booksmart, and The New Vacation, and all
Mm-hmm.
that. Exactly. Yeah. And Night Museum, but that's. Yeah, no, I had that. I had Pushing Daisies was another like classic, I think.
Yeah.
Season and a half, I think. Yeah, great premise, or interesting premise that it could have went somewhere and might have not lived up to the full potential within that first thing, but it definitely had the potential to go after that early start. Patton Oswalt, I love him as a comedic actor. I think him in Kings of Queen and AP Bio with Glenn Howerton is fantastic. So I think Kings of Queen kind of got the short end of the stick where it was pretty big for sure, but it kind of lost to Everybody Loves Raymond, kind of in that same fashion. Always small in second, kind of like Community to Big Bang and everything else like that. And then AP Bio, I think everyone wants to give the rep to Glenn Howerton. That's just another It's Always Sunny Philadelphia and another corrupt person in authority. But I think it's a very sweet and succinct kind of half-hour comedy. Proves the credit to NBC Comedy. I think that's the best comedy division out there right now, with Good Place just finishing up and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I think it's all like Fremulon and stuff like that. But
you watch Superstore?
Never really liked it as much as
I haven't seen it, but everybody talks about it, and I was like, I watched like a couple episodes and I wasn't feeling it, but I feel it's one of those things that caught its groove like a couple seasons in, but I don't know.
Yeah. And then I think the biggest one I really wanted to include, but I already had Jeremy Sisto once on this list with 6 Feet Under, Suburgatory. I think that was another ABC comedy. Like I think it was in middle school or early high school. Whereas, do you ever watch Shameless?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the first season. Remember Ian's little friend? Totally forget her name too now. Mandy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they changed actresses. It was like Jane something. But she got the show on ABC with Jeremy Sisto as like a handyman who bought a house in the suburbs, and it's kind of all that.
Oh man, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of very. I thought it was very biting humor and hilarious, especially for network comedy. But I thought it definitely had potential to go somewhere. I think it was always just falling behind the middle. and Modern Family never got that same.
Oh man, you just blew my mind, dude. I totally forgot about that. I think we watched a few. I know we watched a few episodes of it, and I can visualize it in my head now. Holy shit, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, it was kind of that weeds kind of like, but also a little more refined as far as the characters' actions.
Right, because they
Still,
were in on the joke, but like the world wasn't, right?
yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh man. Yeah. Okay.
Everything was a little bit too perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. All right, I'm gonna go look that up now, dude. I'm gonna put that on my list. I gotta binge that. So, all right, I'm making notes. That's what I'm doing. But all right, man, we've done a lot of this, man. I appreciate it. I think we literally came in the middle and in betweeners, man. But we hit a little bit of upper demo, lower demo, and we figured some things out. So I hope you watching at home. I hope you found a couple shows to check out. We gave you a lot. I will start sharing your articles on our page, man. I don't even know. Are we even Facebook friends? I don't even know, man.
I really don't use Facebook that much, but you can totally do that.
Right. Well, I have a
I
Twitter,
do.
man. You can. Do you do Twitter or what? Are you just all TikTok now? What?
I have a burner account on Twitter that's not my name.
Well, I've got two of those too, man. I'm talking like a real one where, you're out there, you're writing, dude. How do you share your stuff?
Pretty much just through my actual Facebook page of my company and stuff like that, or
Okay.
I'll post it on my Instagram story too, which I'm gonna do with this interview most likely. If it's on YouTube, I think you put it on YouTube, right?
Yeah. There's a channel.
Figure out a way to put it on Instagram so people can just click through it.
All right, man. Yeah. Build your brand, man. Start getting on there.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like it, even if you don't like the platform, you still should have a page, man. Just for people that Google you.
Exactly.
All right, man.
All right.
And there's someone that I'm getting bombed again, so I got to get out of here. You need some vegetables or something, man. So, all right. Good to see you, bud. Take care. We'll talk soon.
Bye.